So when you see Frank and Mary on the road, you're really seeing Frank and Mary on the road. So here we are. Shelby always thinks up these ideas. We are now at the site of Webb, which many of you folks already know about, to visit. And Shelby's going to talk to you a little bit more about what's going on here right now. Shelby.
Great, thank you, Arthur. Well, I'm happy to be here on the site of Webb Chauncy Lake, and we are here to have an appointment. We have an appointment with Melanie, and she's going to talk to us about this great community that is growing behind us, literally. You'll hear that perhaps as we start to walk in. And we're going to talk to Melanie about some housing options for my parents, Frank and Mary. And Arthur also happens to be...
Who knew that it was actually her parents that I was always talking about, right? My clients, Frank and Mary, but we were always trying to keep this part quiet. So,
right.
So we're going to talk about how Frank and Mary, who are moving because they want to sell they're selling their house in Westborough, which they loved, but it's time for them to move. And so we're going to try to figure out whether Frank and Mary could find a happy place here.
Let's go in.
Let's go in.
Hi, welcome to Webb Chauncy Lake. How are you?
Great, you must be Melanie.
I am, so nice to see
to meet you.
Melanie, my name's Art. I'm
Art,
Bergeron.
welcome.
How are you? Melanie Chatterton. I
That's
remember.
correct.
Yes, I remember
Yes.
Shelby telling me.
That's
that.
correct.
Yeah.
That's
Excellent.
correct. So we're here, as I told you, to talk about my parents, Frank and
Perfect.
Mary.
This has been kind of the town secret. No one really knew that Frank and Mary, who are my clients, were actually her parents.
Wow.
Right,
well,
right.
it's out there now.
It's out there now. That's right. Oh, they're so embarrassed. They're going to kill us now for doing this.
Wait till my real parents find this out. That's a whole other problem. Excellent. So
Well, tell me what's caused them to think about this change.
You know, they live in Westborough. They've been very happy here for many, many years. But, you know, they're kind of, wanting some changes. There have been a few health issues.
Yeah,
and
they're
so
in their early 70s, you know,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah.
like they're starting to wonder. They're just a little bit older than me,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
And so that there's nothing major that is an issue right now, but
We're
so
forward thinking.
She worries.
Sure.
She worries,
Right.
and she and the other siblings worry, what's going to happen to my parents,
Right.
So they're like, they're no help. They're not falling now,
No.
but the notion of not having to shovel the snow, do all that
Absolutely.
stuff,
Right. And socially, their friends have moved around in different places, and I kind of feel like they could really benefit from kind of engaging with their peers in a really active way, and they have different
Absolutely.
interests too. So
Absolutely.
So
Right,
they'll
and their
be-
neighbors are gone. I mean,
Right.
they grew up in the, that's where Shelby was raised,
Yeah.
so it was in this
Sure.
neighborhood.
Right.
But
And it's
now
changed.
the neighborhood's gone, right?
Right,
So for them to be starting a new life, but they're very intimidated about this, right? They're
Right.
not excited about this. So we got to be trying to convince them.
Exactly.
Well, wonderful. Well, we haven't lost anybody yet, so you're in good
All
hands.
right,
good.
excellent.
So
Good.
let's go over and talk a little bit more about their lifestyle and how we can fit them into a community like Webb.
Great, perfect.
Great.
Thank you. It's very comfortable. Love it. Thank you.
It's a pretty luxurious sales office, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's rather nice. We thoroughly have been enjoying it. The view speaks for itself.
I was going to say that the afternoon walks must be pleasant, right? You can just
Oh,
kind of enjoy
absolutely.
that lake is just wonderful.
It is.
But I digress.
No, that's
So-
okay. And I have, as a good daughter does, I have some questions here.
Absolutely.
But however the conversation goes, it goes.
Sure.
So, as I mentioned, my parents are currently living in Westborough, and they're just, I think that they need something else. But as we've talked about, we've got to sort of convince them that Webb is the right place. So, tell us a little bit about the community, if you will, and
Sure.
what is it? What's it like to be part of a Webb community?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and about what you need to know from your parents, my clients, in order to kind of convince them, right?
Absolutely. So, had you ever heard of Webb before?
From past experience in out west communities.
Yes.
Yes, well known.
So Webb created the active adult way of life in 1960, and his first set of models was wildly successful and brought in about 100,000 people over a 3-day time period, and it made the cover of a Time magazine. It was
Wow.
absolutely incredible.
That's
And
pretty amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh, that is amazing.
So since then, of course, they've been popular throughout a lot of warmer climates. So it's pretty unique to have a Del Webb community here in New England. This is a much more intimate Del Webb community, which I think is going to just be wonderful because it's really going to speak volumes to the type of closeness that you're going to have with your other homeowners. So when you're coming into a Del Webb community, the home is almost secondary. It's really about lifestyle.
Okay.
It's about reinvesting in yourself and maybe getting back to some of the things you did from a long time ago, or starting some new things. Overall, it's about growing as a person and doing that with other people that you share similar values and interests with.
I like that, reinvesting in yourself.
Reinvesting in
Right?
yourself.
We don't do that
That's
often enough. That's great.
We don't.
right.
We
That's
don't.
great.
And I would assume they're going to know some of the folks here because
Yeah.
some of these folks are going to be from Westborough. But
Sure.
do you have any sense, based on places, other communities that you've built, typically, what percentage of your population comes from fairly close, as opposed to people that come from farther away, maybe because they want to be close to a child or for what other reasons? Just curious.
So I would say at least 50% of our homeowners right
Yep.
now that are coming into this community are coming from the Westborough or surrounding Northborough, Southborough areas.
That's really huge.
Yes,
That's really
it's
huge,
great.
yeah.
And even for the other percentage of folks that we have interest in right now, they're coming back to Westborough, they're coming back to their
Nice.
children, they're coming to their grandchildren that are just being born here.
Yeah.
So it's really the driving factor is about family and being close to them.
Okay.
Yes.
So I know we'll probably talk a lot about kind of like what are the amenities, what do you offer, but in terms of size, you mentioned this is a smaller, intimate sort of Del Webb community. How many condos will ultimately be here, homes?
So we're going to have 700 homes here,
Okay.
14 buildings. We'll have about 50 homes per building
Okay.
with garage parking underneath.
Okay, underneath.
Yes.
Oh,
That's good. That's all
no
good.
shoveling.
No show. That's,
No
yeah, that's the
smoking,
goal of the
right?
exercise.
No ice.
And are these all are these elevated buildings?
Yes, they have elevators. So inside the building is single level living, which is
Excellent.
wonderful.
Great.
It lends itself to a lock and leave situation, which is perfect for a lot of people who do want to remain close to their family, but maybe they want to spend half the year in Florida or a warmer climate
Lock
and
and
then
leave.
come back.
Lock and leave.
I like
good.
that.
Yeah.
That's
Are
right.
we at that point yet?
We're not. We're
not there
no.
yet.
We're not
We're
there
not
yet.
there.
I'm at that point.
but we're not right now trying to figure out what to do with the rose bushes that we failed to cut back in the fall, and now
Right.
we're like, oh my God, it's coming, you know,
Right,
And,
right.
and we're not worried about the grass that's now growing,
Right.
and
exactly.
is the mower still working?
Right.
This is like all behind us.
Right,
That's right.
exactly. And so, living, the homes are 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. Is that sort of the extent of it, or do they have 3 bedroom? Tell us a little bit about
So we
them.
have three floor plans that are 2 bedroom, 2 bath.
Okay.
Some of those have additional flex areas that can be utilized as dens or offices, things
Okay.
of that nature. And then we have 4 1 bedroom, 1 bath floor plans.
Oh, right. So lots of different kind of layouts for folks to choose from, and so on and so forth.
Exactly,
Great. Excellent.
exactly.
Excellent. What? So tell us a little bit more. We started talking about the, kind of what my parents might enjoy here and reinvesting in themselves. And so tell us a little bit more about that. Like, do you have? I mean, I'm looking around sort of the office here, and I see some active pictures and all. I know Lake Chauncy is right there. What could they do here in a community?
Sure. So in a community like this, it's going to be created within the special interest and the unique interest of all of our homeowners. The homeowners are essentially creating what is important to them.
Great.
So we will have a lifestyle director who will be full-time, who will be facilitating all sorts of social clubs and groups and the creation of those groups with the homeowners and those interests. And then they'll be creating activities both inside the community and outside community on behalf of the homeowners association.
Great.
So between those three, there'll be probably a couple hundred activities a month to be involved in.
Wow.
But the important thing to note is that it's not required.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, especially with our couples, we'll have one that's a little more introverted, one's more extroverted, and we'll have amenities to offer for both of those type of personalities.
Sure.
So for one that wants to be very social, they may want to go down and do a card game down at the amenity center. Maybe the other one wants to just take a a swim in the pool or a
They're
fitness
they're not
class.
swimming down at Chauncy Lake.
Yeah, they could if they wanted to, but we're
That's
gonna.
right, but the town beach is not that far away.
No,
actually.
and,
No.
and they've done a lot of clearing too,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
that's
much
great.
more accessible.
It is.
Yes.
It
yes.
is. And it's absolutely gorgeous property, and we're going to take advantage of that. We can obviously look out at the lake, which is fabulous. There's going to be 3 outdoor gazebos that are going to have things like farmers markets in the summertime, maybe some summer concert series. You know, maybe the theater group, if one is formed, they'll do some performances out there. So again, it's really going to be shaped how the homeowners, you know, what their interests are.
So that's really interesting, because I know that as we've talked with them, Arthur, about, you know, what might be the next step, what they've said candidly is they don't want to go into an assisted living. They're not there yet. That's not there. We've talked about, you know, they're very healthy, they're very active.
They never want to go to a
active,
nursing
excuse me.
home, but they don't even
Right.
want to. They just don't feel like they're too young for that.
Right, they're too young for that, right? But at the same time, they sort of recognize and like, oh, I've got a headache, and I love how you mentioned about the lock and leave, because
Yes.
they're hesitant to leave their home because they're like, oh, what if something happens, and who's going to plow the driveway? And you know, I'm the one that's local here, so I would certainly end up doing a lot of that.
Sure.
So, and I know they're concerned about that. So,
So I'm curious.
Yeah.
So I always wondered what Frank and Mary's interests were.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
I know I've always talked to them about their estate planning and all this other stuff. but-
Right, right.
So what do you think they'd be wanting to see
Right.
here? I mean,
So
because I know
Frank-
your parents are very different.
Yes,
right?
they are, they
Very
are.
close, but they're very. I mean, they have
and they
those.
need their space.
Yeah,
there's no
yeah.
doubt about
and
that.
they have that. And they have those qualities. They don't want to be together They want to be together, but not like all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, my dad loves to play cribbage.
Great.
He's kind of an athlete in and of himself, but he's slowed down. So I think that certainly bocce might be something he'd be interested in. Not so much the pool, but maybe some walking, that sort of thing. And he loves sports, so if there was
Perhaps some pickleball, we'll get him to try that out.
yeah,
Maybe he might
yeah.
find a love for that.
he
That's
might
been very popular.
Yes, exactly. And my mom, you know, she's extremely social, a little bit creative, so she sort of has dabbled in like scrapbooking.
Great.
She loves kind of like luncheons, teas, you know, likes to go on day trips and kind of explore new places and that sort of thing. And of course they both drive right now and all of that, so they do that a fair amount. But sometimes like going out with the ladies is a little different than going out with Frank.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's not the same trip.
No, it's not.
the
It's
same
not. But
trip.
they both love to eat. That's sort of something I guess
Yeah.
they passed on to me too. And you know, they you know, if they like to celebrate different events. So if there was a you know, they've gone to friends' houses for a Cinco de Mayo party or a 4th of July
Exactly.
barbecue or those kind of things where they can, you know, get together and.
Wow, this is like a whole side of Frank.
Oh yeah,
and
I know.
Mary that, like, I never knew.
I know.
I never would
Well, that's because
talk
we have to
about.
pay you by the hour.
Well, that's
so
right.
we have to keep it. We have to keep it short.
They send me a memo. That
Right,
says that. They don't want to actually talk about it. They don't want to gossip about it.
Right. Exactly.
So how would you frame that? And based on your own experience, because I think you had mentioned you worked at other Del Webb
Correct.
communities before, right?
Yes.
So you've kind of seen how these have evolved, right?
I have.
So how would you deal with these folks? And I just ask a question. Is there another one? Because you said this is
Yeah,
really
good
new
point.
to the Northeast. Is there another place that people could actually go see around here? Or obviously you've got all this stuff on your website, right? So they could see all that stuff.
We do. We
But
do.
I was
We
just
don't.
curious.
We don't have another Del Webb that we're
Yep.
currently offering homes at right now in
Yep.
the New England area, or in the Massachusetts area, I should say.
Yeah. So this is the groundbreaking.
It is.
They would love that. They like
Yeah.
to be first on.
They like to
certain
be
things,
first.
So
That's right.
Good.
Yes,
Yeah.
and
they can be on some of your videos, you know.
Right.
frankly,
Sure,
you know.
sure.
They're very good on video. They're terrific.
Well, we should bring them in.
They look like cartoon characters sometimes. They're so good. They're just like they're so entertaining.
Right.
So
So how would they? So if we brought them in, like, what would that next step be?
That next step would be to bring them in, and we can talk to them about how they need to utilize the home inside the floor plan, and identify which floor plan is going to suit their needs best.
Sure.
Things like, you know, if they're both wanting separate spaces for watching their programs, or are they wanting to be in the same room but doing two different things while they're in the same room? That
Sure.
that you know, so it really depends on their specific wants of living inside the floor plan. So
I actually had a question when you mentioned
Sure.
the bedrooms. So I understand this is an age-restricted community.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Obviously, they're both over 55. Maybe not in mind, in spirit, but they
Sure.
are.
So could Shelby visit?
Yeah, can I visit? Can I stay over? Because I'm
Yeah.
not there yet,
Right,
actually. Could they have their grandchildren here overnight?
they can.
Okay.
They
okay.
can. Yes, absolutely. So the age restriction is in occupying the home. So there needs to be one person who's 55 or better.
Okay.
And as far as visitors, anyone 19 or above can stay in the home with them. 19 or younger can visit, but cannot make this their permanent residence.
Okay.
And
Okay.
as a lawyer, what's the definition of that? What's a visit?
Yeah.
How long can a visit be? So if you're coming with your kids, for example.
Right. If they came for like April vacation,
Like,
could
how
they
long
stay
can-
for a
how
couple
long can
days?
They
Yeah.
can. There's
Yeah.
no restrictions on that,
Okay.
and it is as long as they're not making this their permanent residence.
I see. So
Okay.
that's great.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
great. So
there's
it's
a lot
really
of
flexible.
Offers some
flexibility.
flexibility.
Yes,
That's
there
great.
is for flexibility for different types of families.
That's great. Excellent. And what's because money is it's important, right? So
Sure.
what do the units start at, and what are the annual fees?
Okay, so our one bedroom, one bath units will start at $299.
Okay.
And it's going to depend on what floor you're on. There may be an additional location premium for looking at this beautiful lake.
Sure.
And then we also have up to 2 bedroom, 2 bath that will be in the low 4s. And so yes, there's quite a range.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And so just back to the owner occupied. So let's say that my parents are like, oh, we're not ready, but I want to make an investment for them in anticipation because I know ultimately this would be a great place for them.
Sure.
I'm not 55. Could I buy one?
Yes.
And could they live here?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Yes.
Oh, right.
So-
They can be the
so it's
tenant.
not
Yes,
deed
the-
restrict-
correct. The
names
age
don't have to
restriction is
match.
in the occupancy, not in the ownership.
Okay. All
That's all
right.
good.
That's good to know. So as
Yes.
we talk about estate planning for them, and
Yeah.
that's helpful to know.
That's great.
Good.
That's great. So yeah, so going back, you kind of get a sense of kind of who Frank and Mary are in terms of what they'd be interested in, based on your experience. So how would that evolve? What kinds of clubs and stuff would you anticipate them being interested in?
Absolutely. So everything that you described to me, well, first let's make a note of a very important factor that you've brought up. Frank and Mary, they feel like they're losing something by leaving their home.
A lot.
Right?
lot,
It's
yeah.
it's familiar. It's
their-
what
it's
they've
their
known.
house,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. There's a lot of memories there. This is a very emotional transition for people. Once they get here and they realize how they can bring what they've come from here with them and share it with other people that have similar interests and have that connection with people, it all changes. And then they're saying to themselves, why didn't we do what took us so long to come
Right.
here? Because now we can go down to the Arts and Crafts Center at the Amenity Center and do a flower arranging class. We can teach a scrapbooking class. You can share your talents with other people. While Frank might want to, go and do something off on his own rather than doing something social. And there's still opportunities for them to do social things together. There might be a dinner and dancing event. There may be, a Kentucky Derby viewing party
Yeah,
event, and the
sure.
ladies will come
Big
in their
hats.
big hats and they'll sip mint juleps and they'll have a great time. And again, it's all about celebrating life and celebrating their special interests, so they can bring those interests here with them and enjoy and focus on lifestyle and not so much on maintenance.
Great.
So that's an interesting point because it
Yeah.
reminded me of when I first heard of Del Webb, which is once again it's a long time ago, right? Talk about the amenity center because it's sounding like that's kind of one of the unique features of this is that you really have space. It isn't kind of just your standard. This is the clubhouse, right?
Right.
But it's space which can really be used for a whole variety of purposes
Right.
for a
Exactly.
lot of people because you're
Right.
gonna if 700
Right.
units, so you say maybe if you got like 1,000 people.
Right.
walking around.
Exactly.
So what is that?
What
gonna-
is the center?
Yeah, what is
What does
the
it
center?
look
Sure.
like,
What is
right?
that?
So you're exactly right. It's not just a clubhouse. I mean, that really doesn't lend itself to what it is going to be. It is really the heart of the community. So our amenity center is going to be an 11,000 plus square foot amenity center. It will have
11,000 plus. Right? And once again, so for folks who aren't big into square footage, pretty much a standard 4-bedroom colonial is like 2,000.
Correct.
Right. So it's 11,000 plus. Is this all on one floor?
correct.
that's a big floor.
It's
Yeah.
yes.
So multiple rooms probably.
Multiple rooms for beautiful ballroom and function room, which will be able to be sectioned off if you're having smaller functions, which you'll be able to reserve spaces. So let's say you want to have a baby shower in the family, or you want to have a special event, a private event, you can reserve that space. But there's also going to be opportunity for social events from the homeowners association there as well. We have an arts and crafts gallery there for, I anticipate a lot of, a large artist community will come here.
Yep.
There will be a game room to host all sorts of games in there, mahjong, Mexican train.
Oh, great. My mom loves
bridge,
dominoes.
Dominoes,
Loves
yes,
dominoes. Oh, my goodness.
absolutely.
That's great.
We'll have a fitness facility, so there'll be classes in there with various, workout equipment and yoga Pilates studio.
Wonderful.
I anticipate things like stretch labs, which have become very, very popular. The other great thing is they'll have groups that will take the ballroom and they'll set them up like the cruise group, for instance, might set the ballroom up as a travel show, and they'll bring in vendors, and the
that's
vendors
great.
will will offer
Right.
specialty discounts for large groups to take a cruise together.
Oh, that's
And I
wonderful.
suppose that's an advantage, right, of having a community that's 1,000 people.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Is that
Right.
it becomes attractive to speakers doing estate planning.
That's
present-
right.
To folks doing, to a
Right.
whole bunch of people,
Right.
right? Because
Exactly.
you get scale.
Yes, there might be
Right.
keynote speakers. Maybe you can come and do a keynote speak on,
Or we can do, we sing and dance, actually, we have a routine that we do.
That's
together.
even better.
That's
The
a-
Frank
that's
and
a
Mary
high budget
variety
item.
show.
But that's a very
that's
expensive
very
ask.
expensive.
Yes,
right,
we'll
right.
have to see if we can work it into the budget.
Well, yeah. Not the first year. Right? They'll never do it the first year.
I do have, I think want to make an observation too. What I love about this, as you're talking, is that, their lives have always been beyond this area, this physical
Right.
area. And so, by being here, it doesn't mean they leave Westborough behind. So
Right.
they still have the public library that they love. They still could go to the senior center. My dad sometimes goes there for a veterans luncheon,
Sure.
right? There are still restaurants in the area that they like to go to, and
They're still going to Arturo's. They're
they
still
still
going
right. They still they like to walk on the track over at the high school sometimes,
Yes.
to see some of the
Yes.
sports going on, what have
Yeah.
you. So what I like about this is it's still very much in a community that they're familiar with, and it's not like they're here and isolated. It's just an
Exactly.
extension of what Westborough already is.
Exactly. It's still the familiarity of the area and everything they love
Right.
about the area,
Right.
but now they're doing it with a whole bunch of friends that they didn't even know
Sure.
they would have the opportunity to enjoy.
Right.
Right.
And having that low level of maintenance living, that single level living, it's just forward thinking, which is
and
wonderful.
I would suppose, once again, for your dad that likes sports, the advantage of this, if you wanted to get a group of guys together to go into a game,
Right.
right, in
Right.
town, now there's a big enough
Right. Let's get a
Group
van and go to the Red
that
Sox
Yes.
game
a
or
van
something.
isn't a big
Who
deal.
wants to park downtown?
Right.
You charter
Yeah,
a bus,
exactly.
we go downtown.
Right.
Maybe there's an
Exactly.
explorer.
That's
and
right.
And it's easy
Yes.
to figure out.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you can drink.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about a designated driver. You get
Yeah.
once again.
Well,
I-
Mary gets all concerned about
all
that when
concerned
Frank
about
has a
that.
couple
And I
of
used to pretend that it wasn't a problem.
Yeah,
That I could.
well,
but
that was back in
I'm,
the
I'm
day.
getting old. I don't want to be the designated.
No.
Nobody ever wanted to be the designated driver.
no.
So now nobody is the designated.
Exactly,
This is
right,
Yeah.
right.
Exactly.
So that'd be a lot of
And I
fun.
love the quote on the wall over there. We only wish we had done this sooner. I bet that is
It's a common comment
yeah,
from
yeah,
people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They adore living here. They really, really do. And this is a way to still keep them connected to their roots, but also have that resort style living that's all about them.
So let me
Yeah,
ask
go ahead.
one
Yeah,
of the
please.
devil's advocate questions
Sure.
here, because of course, they may be really looking forward to being in this site, but they don't really want to be in a construction site. So,
Right.
Can you talk about how the build out on this is going to work?
Yeah, great question.
Because you've got a lot of buildings, so how if I'm in the first building in,
Mm-hmm,
how long am I listening to construction equipment for all the rest of the buildings that are going to get built? Can you just kind of talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. Well, at the first building, which is right here when you pulled up outside, that's going to be done this December.
Okay.
And the construction really is happening in the back part of the property right now. So right now there are some buildings that are being removed, and there is some additional noise that you're not going to hear after those buildings are down.
Because once again, for people who haven't been following it really closely, all the existing older buildings are going.
That is
Right,
correct.
so every
And they were the state hospital. So
Right,
for folks
just
who are
the older
wondering again,
buildings, yes.
Where are we? That we're on the grounds of the former state hospital,
Exactly.
and all those old brick buildings have been.
Are gone.
Yes,
Or-
we're
or almost gone.
revitalizing the area, and that's
Yeah.
really the exciting part about it.
Right, absolutely.
So first building open in December, and how long are you thinking it will be? Are you building this all in one phase? Or all
So
the
no,
buildings
they'll be
going?
done in multiple phases. So we'll have essentially 3 residential buildings and the clubhouse finished by the end of 2020.
Okay.
Yes.
That's great.
And so,
That's great.
And then
exactly.
as those are filled, I would imagine then kind of additional building takes place.
Right, exactly.
yeah.
And then it will continue moving away from these first areas.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
it'll
sure.
be,
Yeah.
it'll continue to be minimal as it, minimizing as it goes along.
So if you want the really great views, you need to buy in soon.
Yes, that is
'Cause
no
the ones that are
no
being
joke.
built first are the ones that are kind of
Right.
facing Lake or very close to Lake
Yes,
Chauncy,
yes.
which is like
Well,
a
and I
terrific-
also, we're hearing some construction work, but there's a lot of still, they're still taking buildings down.
Well,
and-
right. The majority of that noise that you would hear right now would be due to taking the buildings
Yeah.
down. Exactly, not
Right.
necessarily
Not
to putting them
construction.
up. Right.
Right.
Correct.
Exactly. And Frank actually, he's got a engineering building background, so you remember.
Actually,
that.
he might enjoy
No,
watching those
right.
buildings
I mean,
coming
I
down.
actually think that people are going to be like, "Ooh,
Oh, this is like really
what
cool.
else is
That's
going
right.
on?"
That's right. All the Marys like rolling their eyes. Like,
Right.
"Give me a
Yeah.
break,"
Okay. All
you
the
know?
guys will be out there in their lawn chairs
Yeah.
watching the.
Yeah, with their old hard hats.
Right.
With
Right.
their old hard hats. Just
Exactly.
kind of hanging around.
This is great. Do you have any more questions for Melanie? I know
Well, I think you've covered really a lot of stuff. Can you just talk a little bit more about the arts and crafts? You called it a gallery.
Yeah, like a
What are you
room to
imagining?
come and it's going to be again whatever the
Yeah.
homeowners want to make of it. So if jewelry making is of interest, knitting, painting, photography. I mean, this area is absolutely gorgeous, and I just have imagined people taking a photography class, maybe going for a walk around Chauncey and
Right.
photographing birds. I've had a buyer that wants to do a plein air class, which is painting outside, which
Oh,
is
okay.
just
Okay.
absolutely perfect for that.
That's great.
Um,
And do you envision that most of the activities will be sort of, I know the residents here will generate, the homeowners will generate sort of like, let's do this or what have you, but will you bring in sort of experts in that area?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
So it's not necessarily, Frank saying, oh, let me show you how to, well, cribbage is probably a bad example, but photography, exactly.
Right.
You might have those kind of groups, but you might also bring in a speaker to talk about photographing
Absolutely.
nature or something.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
absolutely.
Okay.
And that will be the determination of each club and group that's created, and the lifestyle director can help them with those things.
Great. So,
She's answered all my questions.
she's
I
answered
think, I
mine.
think they've got we've got a shot at them.
I
We've
think
got a
so.
shot at them. So have you been seeing many people, locally already? I think you had mentioned.
We have. It's been very exciting. Again, this is
Yeah.
a really unique location for a Del Webb community, and everyone is very excited about it. So yes, we've had a lot of activity so far.
I see some dots on the board already, Arthur. Yeah.
Some
we've
of my views have already been taken.
got- Yeah, so.
Yes.
But there's
so-
still time.
But
There's still time.
There's still time.
All right.
That's terrific.
This is
So,
great. Mel,
is-
it's a
It was
pleasure.
a pleasure to
This
meet
is
you.
great. No, a real pleasure. You're gonna love Frank and Mary.
I know
They're,
it.
they're just great.
Yeah,
They're very
yeah.
funny and they're very active. And I think this is the kind of place where they can. What was the term? Where they can
They can
Reinvest.
reinvest in
because
themselves.
they can reinvest in themselves.
That's right.
That's really good.
And so for our viewers at home, we're going to actually have some information on the bottom of the screen that will have the Del Webb information and how you contact Melanie, and we hope you check it out.
You got to check it out. I mean, it's just it's an amazing location, first of all, right? And Del Webb is, and they're really kind of internationally famous. They invented this style of development, right?
Yeah.
And and you get to be the first ones, right? So you get to be on their Facebook page and stuff for everybody else that they do this with later on. So
Come and visit Melanie. She's
Come
here.
and
What are
visit.
your hours?
We're here every day from 10 to 5.
There you go. So
And-
take a field trip.
take a field trip, and thanks again to my wonderful co-host Shelby Marshall, and thanks for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary, and maybe if Shelby keeps pushing it, we'll be back on the road.
That's right. See ya.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.